Wow, he has no grasp of this one.
What part of what I said doesn't make sense? Tremors, a seizure. Have I been in depression? Yes, I've been in depression. At that time, I was 168 pounds, 9% body fat. I got to like 390 pounds.
Whoa.
And I lost that.
You're the kind of guy, it doesn't matter what happens to you. I know you're going to keep moving forward. You had some life changes a couple years ago.
I became paralyzed, a quadriplegic, and now I'm a paraplegic. Well, you're thankful for life. I'm not so into wanting to leave a mark or anything like that. If somebody wants the help or needs it, sure. So I always say live life to the fullest by enjoying it. If you keep abandoning things at 60, you'll be where you are now.
Okay, buddy, got a great interview today. You're going to love this guy. He was nice enough actually to do this interview twice. I screwed it up and I didn't get my recording right. I had the technical errors, but that stuff happens. But he was nice enough to come back. You're going to hear his story. You're going to be amazed near the end because he's going to tell you something you may not know that I think will be very useful in your life. His career spans all kinds of different industries. He's been in renewable energy, and I'm reading from his website here, enterprise software, industrial engineering. He calls himself a conscious capitalist. And I'm going to have him define that as to what that really was. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to bring him on. His name is Mark Hamade. Some of you may already have heard of him because he has a Twitter account with quite a few followers. He also does business in 50 different countries. So if you don't think you're going to learn something in this interview, you're wrong. You're going to learn a lot. So let me bring Mark in right now and hit the right button there. And Mark, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Awesome. So Mark, let me start off. I was just, I was reading your bio and I'm trying to, get all the information I can on you. It's hard to do because you got a lot. But you're a conscious capitalist. Explain to everybody what a conscious capitalist is.
Well, I believe in the 3 Ps and 1 W: planet, profitable enterprise, people, and women entrepreneurs. So anything you do it the right way and the honest way. And that's to protect the planet, because if you think about it, without the planet, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I hear so many people that are on one end of the spectrum or the other. They said, capitalism's bad, or they'll say, green energy's bad, or what, and they look at one point. They don't look at everything. So you're saying you kind of look at everything.
Well, you can't have a profitable business, if you're just thinking about making the planet green, because to make the planet green is very costly, unfortunately. So you better have something that's profitable to do it.
And you've actually worked in green energy, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And, both solar and hydrogen, and, so you've got to be very, you got to do it the right way. Now, if you just go out there and do anything, then you say, you're also affecting humanity in a bad way, right? Because drugs is very profitable. And some drugs are allowed, like sugar. I consider sugar a drug, for example. So you could be in that business, right? And so nothing against Pepsi or Coke. It tastes great. I'm not saying that, but is it good for the planet? Is it good for people? No. People are getting obese from that. But, to each his own. You don't have to be in one or the other or combine them. It's just my ideas, my thoughts.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Elon Musk consider himself a conscious capitalist also?
Oh yeah, and really he's done a lot for humanity, and he's done a lot for green technologies and so forth, regardless of his idiosyncrasies and what people say. No one is really perfect, and everyone, you can find something about faults in them, including me. So
yeah, and I think it takes a different kind of person to do different things.
Yeah, the one thing I want to mention is, it's not that I'm against carbon or oil or things like that or whatever, and the reason why about having profitable enterprise. If you think about it, if we stop using oil and use green technology, what happens to all those employees? They cease out of business. If you told the oil companies they can make as much money in green technology and put their staff in that, they would do it. The knock against green technology, honestly, is about profitability and about where you displace the worker. And that's what a lot of companies don't mention that. Oh, oil has been at the forefront of history. Oil is this, oil is that. But that's not the real reason. The real reason is because it's so profitable.
Right. And I think you have an international view of all this because you've worked in a lot of different countries. What are some of the countries you've actually worked with or in?
Well, Middle East, Mexico, India, Philippines,
And you had a very interesting upbringing too. You were born in Beirut in 1974. Tell me a little bit about that, because who you are today is probably shaped by all that, right?
Of course. I was born in the middle of, you can go watch the movie Beirut if you want I think it's on Netflix or whatever.
Great movie.
I was seeing bombs like every couple of minutes. It was
At what
4th of
age?
July every day.
At what age?
Well, from the time I was born till the time I left, 11. I mean,
Wow.
the war never stopped,
Yeah.
People dying left and right, kids losing their hands, their legs from the parachutes that come down from the bombs are made out of silk. So we used to try to run around with the parachutes. It was kind of cool.
Kids are very adaptable, aren't they?
Yeah, but if you step on a Scud missile that hasn't exploded, there goes your leg.
So at age 11, you say you left Lebanon, and where did you go?
To the United States.
Okay, and how did that come about?
Just my grandmother wanted me to have further my education, because at the time schools were in and out, mostly homeschooled because of the war and so forth.
Okay, and did you move with your parents?
No, my parents had gone before. I was raised strictly by my grandmother, and then
Wow.
and then I moved by myself to the United States.
By yourself at 11?
Yes.
And how did you live when you got here?
My grandmother had connections, so stayed in an apartment with people watching over me in New York City, and then my parents came by later, and then we lived in Long Island, and then later in California.
And you also have some military history too. Can you tell me a little bit about that and what you did?
Yes. Before college, in between college, so forth, I joined the United States Marine Corps and did 10 years there.
Wow. Thanks again for your service.
Thank you.
You know, I have a lot of budding, I guess they want to call themselves entrepreneurs. I think until you can live off whatever you're doing, it's hard to call yourself that. But what advice would you give them? Because obviously you went from a really tough situation, I mean, the middle of a war zone, to, an 11-year-old moving by himself. And I hear so many people say, well, I just don't have any chances and nobody's giving me opportunities. And I want to really get frustrated with those people. So what would you say to that?
Well, some people say you have to be smart, and I would make that distinction, but I would say even more so, you don't have to be smart, you have to make smart decisions. That's the first thing. You have to make smart decisions. You have to also really be a good executor and have a good vision for what you're planning to do. And you really have to have that mental attitude that when you're at the bottom, there's only one way, and it's up. And really believe in that, not just say it. A lot of people say there's a lot of people eating, no meat on Instagram. Yet when the camera's off, they're eating meat, right? So you have to believe in what you're saying.
Follow the liver king or whatever it is. He said he only ate liver and he didn't take steroids and all this. And then they found he was getting all these shipments of steroids.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, take everything with a grain of salt. He's a smart guy. I talked to him on the phone several times, many, many years ago before he
Oh,
got
really?
big. Yeah, nice guy, smart, all that. But I mean, he didn't have to lie.
Right, right.
I mean, even with taking steroids, it's hard to get that big and that strong. And, so give him credit for, working hard and lifting that stuff and doing all that. But yeah, he definitely had help along the way.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's a marketing genius, right?
He is good at that. Yeah, and I think what you said, you said that somebody has to have execution, and they have to make good decisions. And we talked about this in our last conversation, but Warren Buffett says a lot of your success in life is based on who you choose to marry. And that can bring you up or bring you down. But execution, talk to me a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people don't get what that really means.
Yeah, I mean, look at it from a simple point of view of starting a lawnmower, right? When you pull that lift to start the lawnmower, right? If you don't do it with precision, you have to do it again and again and again, and that's not proper execution. Proper execution is doing it flawlessly with that one pull and getting it going. And I think it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing in marriage. It's the same thing starting a cell phone, anything. And with execution, you cut out some time, because then you're quicker to moving forward. And then if you can execute properly that way, imagine and what else you can execute properly, right? And so it's so important to have execution. But along with that, it's, responsibility and accountability. But I mean, if you look at the best executioner in the world, in my opinion, it's Steve Jobs. Look at how beautiful the iPhone is.
Right.
And then yes. And then from the first iPhone, which was maybe, I think, iPhone 3, till the 15 or 16 iPhone or 14, barely has changed anything. Some things have changed, yes, better camera, a little bit swerved curve, a little bigger, blah, blah, blah. But they're almost identical. They're just reiterations.
Let me ask you this, though, because that's an interesting point. If Steve Jobs was still around, do you think that would still be the case, or do you think that you'd see big changes?
No, I think it would be even smaller changes. Just more
Really?
perfection. Yes, just better, more perfection.
I gotcha.
Better camera resolution. You could argue Samsung's is better, if you don't tinker with it. Just things like that. The thinness, just each piece meticulously from the best vendors. So weight, stuff like that. Methodically, just outstanding. I think if he was going to do massive changes, it would be a different phone completely. Completely. And remember, to do something massive but have it exceptional takes many years. I mean, look at Samsung's, look at all of these other phones. None of them get the high reviews that iPhone gets. And that's because for the past, 20 years, 25 years, they've just worked on the same model, perfecting it.
Wow, it's been that long, hasn't it? That's crazy.
Yeah, if you really think about it, right? It wasn't 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, and I grew up with a dial phone that was on the wall, and you had to stand by the wall and talk. It was a whole different situation. And I want to get back, because this execution thing I think is so important. But I think the thing that really paralyzes a lot of people is they go to do something and then they never do anything, because they ask this question. They go, "What if it doesn't work out?" And so, it stops them from ever doing anything. And you talk about executing right. Some people don't execute at all.
That's correct. And that's paralysis, right?
Right. And how can you fix that?
Well, there's a couple of ways, but one way is write down what you need to do and then do it. So I write down what I didn't do at night that day, and I do it the next day. Now, if you're unable to do that, that's where you need a great co-founder, or you need a great coach or a mentor or somebody that can help you get past that paralysis. Because if you think about paralysis doesn't go away by itself. Well, it does a lot of times, right? Sometimes it does, but not right away, right? Maybe you're in bed and your foot doesn't move. A few hours later, maybe a week later, right? Maybe a month, maybe 5 years later, maybe never. But there's a period of time where you're paralyzed. So it's how to get out of that paralyzation.
Yeah, and I think the important thing, and I've done that exercise where I write down what needs to get done, but if I'm not, executing on something, I'll write down what could happen if I don't do it and what could happen if I do it. Well, and that will motivate me.
Well, absolutely. And I would say with that, it's responsibility and accountability. You have to take responsibility and accountability for executing no matter what. And you have to take responsibility and accountability for even if you execute it and it's not a great decision, or if you change the plan or the idea. So responsibility and accountability are just as important as execution.
Absolutely. And because I sell courses and I teach people how to make money online. And it's interesting because I'll go in and look at the statistics. We have a software and I can tell who logged in, how many videos they watched, that type of thing. And the vast majority of them don't finish the course. And then there's a small percentage of them that don't even open the course, but they'll buy the next course.
That's a great point you mentioned. I think a lot of people are fascinated in saying they're the CEO of their business, or they're an entrepreneur, or this, when all of it is hogwash. It doesn't really matter. It's about doing something successfully, A, and taking pride in it, and B, then making money in it. And
right.
A lot of times, if you think about the money before you think about the service or product, you don't make money. If you think about what you can do, you make money. I mean, let's look at landscaping as a business as an example.
Okay.
People don't go out and say, okay, I'm gonna mow lawns just to make money. Even kids, I'll argue even a kid who's making $5 to $10, he says, oh, I need to buy a new bicycle, or I need to help me get to school, or I need to pay for an education, or they need something. Okay, I will mow lawns in the summer.
Yeah, so we're looking at our end goal instead of just the money.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And even the multi-million-dollar organizations in landscaping. One guy who started at University of Tennessee. Well, he was still in school. He mowed lawn, and at home when he went home, and then he figured, okay, well, I could do the same thing for the university. Their lawns aren't being mowed well or whatever, and he got that contract and got other contracts. So, and why is it for? Well, to pay for his education and not have student loans.
Right.
Well, then it grew to bigger and bigger, and and obviously the courses he took in class on entrepreneurship and so forth helped, but he had the confidence in mowing lawns. So when you're doing something, you have to have a little bit of a confidence in that particular trade. So I've heard a 12-year-old girl speak in front of a group. She spoke better than some CEOs I know. So if you're not, I don't care if you want to be a motivational speaker or you want to speak in front of universities or whatever, if you're terrible at it, you shouldn't do it.
Well, that would beg the question, how do you get good at it?
I think it's hard. I think it has to be from it within. I think some people are born to speak. Now, you can be a better speaker if you're more refined, if you hone in your message, or if you have a message that's amazing. Even if you're a terrible speaker, people will listen to it.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
You know, but you have to have an amazing message, and people will listen.
Right.
But you can't buy charisma.
Yeah.
You can't buy charisma. Okay.
Yeah.
You can buy a great message, right? Like, Admiral blah 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 saved 10 people in Vietnam, or carried 3 people on his shoulder. That's an amazing message.
Right.
But you can't buy charisma of, like, for example, a dean of students saying, well, I wish everybody for graduating, congratulations. And you know, whenever there's I spoke in front of a college, and whenever I've spoken in front of a university or something like that, usually somebody before or after you speaks who was like a dean or a chancellor or whatever.
Sometimes you speak in front of a university commencement class, and I've spoken in front of one, but sometimes a dean or a chancellor or someone speaks before or after you. And a lot of them are terrible speakers.
Right.
They just read off the piece of paper they wrote, and honestly, they didn't write it. More than likely, someone else wrote it for them. And
I personally have spoken at a lot of events, and I think the biggest thing is knowing your audience and making a connection with their audience. And if you don't do those two things, it's really hard to give a good speech, if you don't connect with the people that are there. I've seen that time and time again. What's your opinion of that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And you have to look, I tell people there are 5 different personalities. There's like an introvert, an extrovert, a promoter, a visionary, just different personalities, right? You cannot have one message, not on your website, not on the phone, not in person. Well, in person you can if you know that person's personality, but not on the phone, not on email, not on the web, and not in a speech. You have to somehow address all personalities. Otherwise, you only capture a percentage. Whenever I've spoken, I always said, some of you I probably did not reach. Those of you I did not reach, please stay afterwards, and I can answer some of your questions. And I try to capture. Yep, I try to capture the people who I didn't reach and figure out why I didn't reach them or what was going.
I like that. I like that a lot. Now, there's a lot of people out there, and I hear this every day, and I just want you to address it, who say, well, I can't because, and they'll fill it in with, I had a bad childhood, or I don't have any money, or I live in a bad neighborhood. And so far, all those things I've hit. But what do you say to those people who always have an excuse why they can't move forward, be successful, get the promotion, start the business? What do you say to those people?
Well, I tell them even when I ran companies, I'd say, if you use the word I can't, you're going to be fired.
There you go.
Plain and simple. don't use the word can't. Come with a solution.
Right.
Come with a solution or ask for a solution.
Some of these people genuinely, and even hearing your story, I mean, you went through all kinds of stuff. Some of these people genuinely believe that you've got an advantage over them. And, in some cases, sure, some people are smarter, they have more charisma and all this, but it really kind of infuriates me when people say, I can't because, and they'll fill in some of the simplest things to overcome I've ever seen in my life.
Absolutely. And even hard stuff can be overcome. You see single moms, moms with 10 kids. Okay, example. To become a nurse, might cost you $350,000, something like that.
My son is a nurse, by the way.
Okay. So first you become first you're a caregiver, which we all can be. Then after that, it's a CNA, certified nurse assistant. Then it's an LVN. Then it's a registered nurse.
Right.
Now, if you have kids and one person is not working and you want to be a nurse, you can do it that route. But what you can do is the community college route. Now, yes, it's by lottery, but you wait for the lottery. Eventually, you may get it, you may not. But let's just say you get the lottery, and you make the LVN route, and then you can do the registered nurse route. And I think you can stay in like 4 years, but after 5 years, you're out of that system. But after 4 years, if you don't get the lottery, you can go the private practice way. But why not start and do your prerequisites in community college instead of just saying, well, I can't and this and that. Now, if you don't want to, because you want to party, you want to buy a BMW, whatever, that's totally fine. But not wanting and can't are different. And
Way
I think
different.
People use them interchangeably too much.
And I think they use these blanket attitudes, are like what you were saying with the nurse. Well, I can't go to this fancy university, so I'm not going to do anything. In other words, I can't do everything, so I'm not going to do anything. And I think that's very pervasive nowadays in our society.
Correct. I mean, just like if you're paralyzed and can't walk and you want to ski, you say you can't ski. Well, you can't ski on your two legs, but you can sit in a wheelchair with the skis and ski.
You can do what you can do, right?
Exactly.
That's a big thing.
And you'd enjoy it just as much because you're sitting down now and skiing down the hill.
And I think a lot of people are going to benefit from everything that you give here, because I met you because of one reason, but you're a whole lot more than that reason. And I think most people are, and they attach themselves to one thing. They say, well, I can't ever become a doctor because I'm just a cashier at McDonald's, or I can never do that because I'm just a mechanic, or I'm just a waitress, or I'm just and that just a thing gets me. It really does. That's just what you're doing.
Yes. Look, it's hard to do something the first time. And I tell people, okay, it's hard for you maybe to get a gig speaking in front of 50,000. But every single speaker didn't speak before they became a speaker. So you need that one chance. Maybe you speak at a Rotary, maybe you speak at a local church or whatever, and then the crowd increases and increases, and you practice that way. And then it increases. But every single person who's done it didn't do it at one time. You're not born with those skills. You acquire them.
Right.
And so coming into that, if you want to apply at a company for a position that maybe you don't have that skill set, well, but you have to have something. Maybe you don't understand manufacturing, but you understand leadership and you understand turning around companies. And if you do that, then it's yourself convincing that person, the board or whoever, to hire you to do that. Now, if you can't convince them, you probably can't convince the employees of that company anyway. Right?
Yeah.
And nobody's hiring somebody for no reason. Nobody just wants to pay money. Nobody says, hey, Mark, I want to hire you to be our COO because we have money to throw. They're losing money because of a reason. So they need change. And so they're going to be spending more money to bring that change. So they have to have the utmost confidence that you're going to be able to be an addition that makes a positive impact. And so that's what people forget about. And that's why competition is tough. Now, when it comes to an expansion, same argument. You're making so much money that you're leaving money on the table. That you need that person to come in and be efficient for your clients, customers as you grow. So you have to be amazing. Otherwise, they hire somebody else. Now, can they get it wrong in the interview? Oh yeah, I dealt with a company that hired another person. They did terrible, then they came back for help and I helped. It happens. I mean, like anything, like an athlete who doesn't perform. In fit, environment, there's so many aspects to something. And I always say, people say, when everything is important, nothing is important. And I argue with that. And I say, well, no. So you're telling me execution is really important, but not responsibility and accountability? Or execution is really important, but not communicating? No, they're equally as important. If you don't communicate well, people aren't going to execute well.
Right.
Why? Because you didn't deliver the message properly. Right. And so everything is important. And so sometimes it's hard for me to quantify it in one or two things. Then there's focus. Okay, focus is very important. Unless you are just a visionary leader who is not doing the execution and other people are doing, but you're going to drive an executioner crazy because you're giving him 50 ideas and you want them all done tomorrow. So you have to respect everything, and everything has to be very, very important. And then delineating which goes first and which goes second. That's so important. That's why being meticulous and being very task-oriented and being detail-oriented is so critical.
Yeah, it's always in the details, isn't it?
Yes.
Always in the details. Couple other things I wanted to talk to you about too is personal responsibility. I think that's a big thing nowadays. I think a lot of people don't have that. And maybe I'm saying that because I'm a little bit older, but I'm seeing that more and more and more. How important is personal responsibility and not blaming everything?
Incredible. Look at the people that get in trouble in social media. Look at recently, Bo Schlumberger's son. If you follow college football, I don't know if you do or not, but Michigan's old coach and athletic director, Bo, one of the most famous coaches of all time, all that. Well, his son was just kind of like a recruiter for the NFL for like 10, 15 years. He came back home to Michigan to help Jim Harbaugh. Well, 3 days later, he just resigned because on his Twitter feed, they have him liking things about slavery.
Oh.
Slavery's good. And it helped, Yeah. So, oh, I'm sorry, it's insensitive. I shouldn't have said that. I didn't really mean it. Well, you meant it because you didn't take the unlikes off and you kept doing it. And the only reason why that philosophy has changed is because you got fired from a job.
Right.
Now every other company cannot probably not touch you. Not because you took accountability and responsibility. You were forced to do that.
Right. And people want to deal with good people. I mean, they just do want to deal with people.
Yeah.
You know?
And you don't change. Look, everybody makes mistakes again, but you don't change overnight. So if that's what you believe in, take a class on that. Say, I want to learn. I want to be better. But don't tell me after you got in trouble 10 minutes later, well, I've changed and I know different.
Yeah. I like something you said. I want to go way back to the beginning. You said you're a conscious capitalist, and you said the 3 Ps plus a W. And that W is women in business. I'm going back a ways, okay, I hope you don't mind. But in 1988, I think it was, I was running a new car dealership in National City, California. Primarily, the women worked in the office and the men were the management of this dealership. And I had hired some female salespeople, and the owner didn't particularly like that. but they were very good. And one in particular really stood out. And I thought, wow, she would be really good in the finance department. So I went to the owner and I said, hey, I don't want to say the person's name, but I said, so-and-so would be really good in finance. He says, are you considering putting a female in a finance manager's job? I said, absolutely. she would be awesome in there. And he finally conceded and let me put her in there. She was the best finance manager we ever had. We moved her up to the sales desk. She became the new car manager. And I think she was the only one in town at that time. Now, of course, you'll go into dealerships and you'll see a lot of females in there. My wife runs her businesses. She's got a lot of stuff going on. She has podcasts, YouTube channels, all this. But I think the fact that you're addressing that, women can do everything men can do. And I was a single dad. So I raised a girl and a boy, and I told my daughter, I said, you can do anything men can do and have babies. So how do you address that as far as women in business and leadership roles?
Well, okay, so again, all of us are born with certain things, and one of the things that men have, and I'm not saying all, but I'm being general now.
Mm-hmm.
Most have bravado,
right,
and a macho attitude,
right?
Okay, and that can be good to an extent if you mirror it with execution and focus and so forth. It's FOS, full of shit, if you're just using that, excuse my language,
right,
to get further, right? It doesn't get you going. Women, generally speaking, not all, tell you they're a level 7 if you ask them from 1 to 10. What are they? When they're a 9. A man will tell you they're a 10.
When they're 6.
6, 5. Maybe they're a 10 also. But, all of them will say they're a 10. And so the thing that about women when you're interviewing them is you're getting more honesty.
Yes.
In the male counterparts. Now, there are some very, very, very honest men who are good Christians, good leaders, good everything. I'm not saying that there aren't. I'm talking about if you generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
If you get 100 people right now, 100 men and 100 women, more of the women will be telling the truth than the men. Guarantee it.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting.
So
and I found they're very good in business.
So you know what you're getting at.
Yeah.
And then you can cultivate it and so forth. Now, are there women who are complete wreck and the same as a male bravado and all of that? Absolutely. Yeah, there are. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. There are some who've wrecked companies and all of that stuff and moved up the ladder, because of the bravado and machiness, but they've wrecked companies.
I think we all need to look at this thing as we're all just humans,
Yep.
And we should judge people on who they are and what they can do rather than what background they came from, what ethnicity or gender they are. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
But the problem is, like I mentioned it to an email with the CEO of Hilton. If you have 434,000 employees, it's very, very difficult to see the female stars if no one is promoting them.
Right.
Because most of the time they're not promoting themselves. But the male stars are promoting themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And telling you how good they are, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that doesn't mean they're better than the female counterparts.
Right, just because they're saying it. Saying is not doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm very big on writing good recommendations. If I see somebody outstanding, no matter who it is, and I send it straight to the CEO, just because otherwise to me, doesn't make a difference. And I follow up to see if they've done anything for them or they haven't or whatever. Because then I tell the CEOs, then I don't want to waste my time if you're not a good leader.
Yeah, if you can't execute.
Time to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at least look at that person or so forth.
Right.
You know, because they're, you know, whether it's wireless or whether those industries or Cox Cablevision, you know, the CEOs are not around you know, their businesses as easily. And sometimes these businesses have a franchisee CEO, you know, and so forth. And so how do you know this person is doing a good job? So many people in those businesses are lost and going to do something else because they're doing the work, and then they see a lazy person sitting there not doing the work and nobody's seeing it, so they leave, which I admire a great employee to do that.
Sure.
Don't become a bad employee. Leave.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did.
You know?
I looked at some of the management. I'm like, they don't know what they're doing. I need to go do my own thing.
Exactly.
And, you know, that could be a good decision too. And I want to get on now. We've been talking for a while, and I think everybody knows your personality, which is what I want them to do. I want them to know your personality. I want them to know your beliefs, that type of thing. You had some life changes a couple years ago, and you can narrow down, you know, times and all that. And I want you to share that with people because you're the kind of guy. It doesn't matter what happens to you. I know you're going to keep moving forward. And that's why I wanted you on here. And I'm sure that's why you were interviewed many times before. But fill us in a little bit on that.
Yeah. So like everybody else, I took the COVID vaccine. I did the first shot July 29th, Moderna. Second
What year?
shot 2021.
Okay. Thank you.
Second shot August 9th. Took the flu vaccine September 3rd. At that time, I was 168 pounds, 9% body fat, could run like a 6 minute mile. Very healthy, very athletic.
And what age were you at that time, if you don't mind sharing?
48.
48. Okay. So you stayed in shape your whole life, it sounds like.
Yes. I was out of shape when I was younger. In my mid-30s, I had some issues where I gained a lot of weight. I got to like 390 pounds.
Whoa.
And I lost that. Yeah,
You've been through all kinds of stuff.
yeah, but that's not, honestly, that weight is not a big deal to lose. I'm going to tell you why. Because and why people haven't lost it and kept it off. When you're that big and you're losing weight, everybody's cheering you on. When you get chiseled, and I went from a size 56 or 58 pants to a size 31. No surgeries, nothing.
Wow.
If you get to that size and you've got abs and you don't have skin, loose skin or anything, and you look amazing, once you are at that amazing stage, everybody expects you to be there.
Yeah.
There's no motivation now to. So that's why I believe people gain and lose. But it's too hard. So I state that. But now coming forward, September 5th, while taking a shower.
This is still 2021 after the 3 vaccines, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Correct. I started to feel my leg going numb, and it went numb all the way to my neck, and I fell to the ground in the hotel shower at the SLS resort, and I became paralyzed. So I first started off as a quadriplegic, and now I'm a paraplegic. I don't have use of my fingers. I can't I've used my wrist up and down, but I can't use my fingers. They don't work, and I don't have lower extremities.
But you had a lot more issues in the beginning, right? I mean, you had breathing tube, you had all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, I had a few things put in because I was obviously I've had 7 UTI infections, My fever went up to like 107, 108.
Oh my
I
gosh.
had, I had, you know, what do you call it? Tremors, a seizure. Yeah, so definitely a lot of things. I had a catheter where now my bowel movements and so forth, they work on their own, but before they didn't. So there's been like that little improvement, and I'm looking at different therapies now, and I've done some therapies that haven't worked.
Now, I want to clarify something because I've already talked to you previous. You're not against vaccines, but this can cause this problems you have. But that doesn't mean you don't take all vaccines, but it just means you're aware of what can happen. Because I Googled this after I spoke to you last time, and this is a side effect of vaccine. And if you could explain that.
So a vaccine, essentially how it works is it causes an inflammation. And that inflammation usually attacks whatever's wrong and kills it. Well, with the inflammation, it caused an inflammation in my spine and caused the discs to get larger by I don't know if it was 18 times or 15 times, but significant in the C4 through C7, which caused the paralysis. Now, have I had neck pain before? No. Have my neck discs been bad in the past? Possibly. Some doctors say, well, it wasn't so much the vaccine, it was the fact that the discs in your neck were atrophying just from, life and hereditary and so forth. And the straw that hit the camel's back is when you were showering on that particular day with your neck down. My argument is, well, okay, how come it didn't happen when I was lifting weights?
Right, which is a lot more stressful.
How come it didn't happen before? How come it only happened after those 3 shots? And I hadn't been lifting for 3 months because I had shoulder surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think my neck is rested at that time, and and then how come I didn't have, if the discs were so bad before then, almost to paralysis, how come I didn't have neck pain? Okay, they're like, well, it's because you're so positive. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I'm positive. Yeah, this and that, but I couldn't be that positive to not say, oh, you know what, doctor? My neck hurts. Can we do something?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I did 30 pull-ups with a torn shoulder, but after I did the 30 pull-ups, and while I was doing them, I was in pain, and when I got done, I couldn't move my arm for like a couple hours before it started to move a little bit.
And congratulations on the 30 pull-ups, because I do pull-ups too, and I can't do 30. I can tell you that.
Thank you. So you will feel something. So I'm surprised that that didn't happen. Now there are other doctors who have agreed and so forth. Now I will say, like I said, I'm not against it. Would I do it again? I would. Would I do it again if I knew I'd be paralyzed? Of course not.
Right,
No.
Right. Now you've been dealt this hand, which we all have a hand that we got to play. What do you see the future being, and what do you intend to do?
Well, look at gyms that help with different types of therapies. Look at different therapies. I'm looking at everything from that perspective. Now, I do also want to say, I do have bad days. I have days where I am in pain the whole day, and nothing is working. And some of those days I could be kind of a brat and not want to talk to anybody or whatever, or have a.
So you're not perfect.
No.
That's because everybody thinks that you got to be a certain way all the time.
No.
And everybody goes through ups and downs. Everybody.
Yeah. And I will say this, just to be clear, I'm not against drugs to help for depression or so forth. I'm not against them. I haven't taken any, but I am not against them.
That's amazing.
If a person needs them, then they should take them. Have I been in depression? Yes, I've been in depression for maybe a couple of days or something like that, but it hasn't been longer. I get out of it quickly.
And how do you do that? Because people need help with that. How do you do that? When you got all these things that you're dealing with and you've got this, sudden, paralysis, how do you get your head straight again? What would you tell people?
Well, you're thankful for life. You're thankful for what you have, and you're thankful for the people around you, and you appreciate it.
And do you feel like you can accomplish things that you can accomplish right now? Because I think of Stephen Hawkins, who accomplished so much, and I think he's much worse off than you are. But what do you think about that?
I don't even look at it like that. I look at it like I just continue to live life. I'm not so into wanting to leave a mark or anything like that. I'm not, because big deal. But leaving a mark in people is a different story. If I can help somebody, take away their depression,
right,
make them feel better, yes, but not for any other reason. And that, if it comes, it comes. I don't go searching for it or anything like that, because I just think it's somebody wants the help or needs it, sure, but sometimes they have to want the help and have to need it, and need as part of a want, because sometimes you don't know what you need. And so I always say live life to the fullest by enjoying it, and along the way, if you can help people, why not? If somebody feels like they need the help or could use the help.
And just so everybody knows, I reached out to Mark because I thought he really had an incredible story, and I read about him online and looked at all the stuff that he had done. When you put it all together, I think he's very helpful, and his message is very helpful. I would like for you to give me some input on improving attitude, improving business, and it can be a little short snippet, but improving attitude, improving business, and improving relationships. If you would give me a little snippet on each one of those.
Okay. Improving relationships by being a good communicator. You have to communicate very concisely and have the other person understand what you're saying. And you have to be honest and thoughtful. And anytime I communicate something, I always ask, did you understand what I mean? Even if they understood, tell me, or what part of what I said doesn't make sense, or what are your thoughts on it, to get their feedback and kind of do that. Look, and a lot of the great marriages are done on good communication.
Absolutely.
And relationships with marriages are probably the hardest.
Absolutely.
Because if you go through a day by not telling your wife you love her, or you give her a call, she's going to say, well, you only said it to me once today, or you didn't say it. So you have to constantly keep working and nurturing that. It's not just get married and see you later. So to me, that requires a lot of thoughtfulness, but also honesty and great communication. And then you can apply that to other things.
Yeah, let me add one thing to that, because you just made me think of this. I watched an interview with Elon Musk, because everybody thinks, well, this guy can do everything and he's perfect at everything, blah, blah, blah. He has, I think, had 10 kids with 5 different women or something along those lines. And I heard him in an interview one day, and I think you'll think this is humorous. He said to the interviewer, he says, yeah, I think relationships are very interesting. To have a girlfriend or a wife, he says, how many hours a week do you think I would have to spend with them? 4, 8? What do you think it would take? And I thought, wow, he has no grasp of this one.
Yes, correct.
And
so to be a good communicator, like you said, you have to be able to really connect with that audience. But to connect with the audience, it's not just the message. You have to connect to their personality. That's why it's important to the different personalities, because people forget this. Most people hire people like themselves, their reflection, because they're like, oh,
They like themselves, so they hire people that look like them. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And when they go out of the box, because they've hired so many like them, and everybody's saying, "Oh yeah, you're right," but oh yeah, it's not working. And so it's good to be able to understand how that person is different, but how they're similar to you in a sense. Like Tim Cook, when if you think about Tim Cook, he was a compact, okay, and
Compact being a computer, right?
Yes.
A lot of our audience, they weren't even alive when that was around.
Okay, and Steve Jobs hired him, right?
Right.
And he took it because he was like, wow, it's a great opportunity, not money wise, like from making a difference. This guy is amazing, but he could have stayed making his millions, doing something not as amazing. But the interesting thing, look at all these other companies, including Compaq. Why didn't they try to keep him? Look at how amazing he is now.
Right.
So it's being able to see that vision, seeing that vision in others. That's part of the communication process.
Okay.
Right? And being able, if you see that person who they really are, you can connect to them. Right? And so it's like you being able to see the vision in the people who buy your books. Okay, who's the one that's really going to take this mantle and make me look good by reading these skills and saying, wow, this guy's an incredible coach because they did well. Or who's going to be like just putting them, in their folder or inbox and never read them, right? And you're like, wow, this guy had great potential. I was so glad to get him to buy my, online schooling. But now he's, selling, something else, right?
Right.
So to me, how you communicate that is very important because people can get misguided and think, well, it's easy. I'm just going to be just like him. I'm just going to take this course and.
Yeah, it's not easy. Is it?
No, and it's not easy, and it takes years and years sometimes. But if it takes you longer, as long as you get there, you get there.
At least you're doing something. So that's the thing that drives people, or drives me nuts, is people say, well, how much money am I going to make and when am I going to make it? And I'm like, I don't know, and I don't know.
Well,
really.
And I tell people this. I go, if you're 26 now, and you didn't make $1 million by 28, but you made it by 48 or 58 or 68, it doesn't matter. You made it if you keep going, and you might make it early. But if you keep abandoning things at 60, you'll be where you are now.
Exactly. Nothing ever happened.
Same question. Correct. I'll give a quick story.
Okay, sure.
A gentleman who was 55 wanted an investment strategy, and this investment strategy was a 5-year long strategy. He took another strategy that somebody else advised him on, and I was against, and it was a 6-month strategy.
6 months, okay.
He lost his 2 million savings. Then at 60, one of his sisters died and gave him $1 million. I gave him another strategy. It was for 6 years, not 5 with this particular thing. Somebody gave him a 1-month strategy. He almost took that 1-month strategy, but ended up taking the 6-year strategy, and he made a bunch of millions. He made I won't say the amount, but it's significant. He became a millionaire, multi-millionaire, whatever you want to call it, by 66.
Be patient.
He still has years to live and so forth and all that. And gave other family members money. And it's okay to have speed, but have speed with execution, or have proper speed, meaning it's thought out properly and it's not haphazard.
Okay, and also I want to get your information out in front of you. I have one other question I want to ask you and get your thought on it. But how can people get a hold of you? And whatever you say, I'll make sure it gets put on the screen too.
Email mark.hamade@gmail.com.
Okay.
That's the best. Or Mark Hamade at pm.me. That's Proton Mail. You can do Mark Hamade at protonmail.com. You can. I haven't updated recently my website, but you can peruse that.
And the website is markhamade.com.
Email me, and then I'll get back to you quickly.
Now, I know your travel situation could be difficult, but are you available for like speaking engagements online, that type of thing?
Yes, absolutely. Online, definitely. I coach online. No such thing as can't. It just has to make sense, right?
I love it. So you're actually embodying what you're saying. You're not saying you can't do anything. You just told me that. And, yeah.
Yeah. Never say you can't, but it's never. What people have to understand is that you have to really believe in what you say.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say if it's not easy, I'm not doing it, which is
correct.
Bad. Now, the last thing I want to ask you is your opinion on ChatGPT, AI, all that, and what do you think direction it's going? This is your opportunity to be a fortune teller.
Well, I think AI is incredible, but when was AI started? In 1963, right? By two professors at Carnegie Mellon. So AI has been going on for quite some time. It's the different type of AI that we're getting to, maybe more sophisticated. ChatGPT, I like it. It has its good uses. I think AI is here to stay.
Oh yeah.
And I think it'll make things easier and allow you to do more things. But it also can be very dangerous. So it can also, you can use it for things that are not good. So it's a matter of how it's used. But I'm all for new technology and things that allow you to do your job as meticulous, but maybe a little bit quicker.
Right.
You can find an answer quicker through it.
Right.
You can, and it learns as you input more data in it.
Well, I appreciate it. Once again, Mark, thank you so much for doing this twice, because we had technical difficulties the first time. That just shows the tenacity of Mark. And guys, I don't care if you have a business, you're an individual, whatever, reach out to Mark. Information will be on the screen. And if he's available, and obviously we can't guarantee he's going to be available, but I'm sure he would be beneficial to any business out there, any individual out there that is looking for somebody who is business minded, who is definitely not a quitter, and who has an amazing story. If you just want a story told, Mark could share his story, I'm sure too. Mark?
Well, I've also helped small, mid, and large companies. So whether you have 300,000 employees or you have 10, it's all have problems and all need improvement.
And you love what you're doing, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because what jobs do are they create more opportunities for people, but they're the livelihood and the backbone of the American dream, right? The job pays your bills and supports your family. Without that job, you're unable to take care of the roof of where you're at and feed your family if we drum it down.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me, Mark. I really appreciate it, and I think you'll nothing but improve. I got that feeling about you.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure you will. Thank you. Have a good day. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click that little bell right there so you can be notified every time I do a new video. Also, click on one of those videos there. Keep watching on my channel.